Now, if you just take a good look at this crowd, if we're being, again, the one thing about a lot of these events is that there tends to be a lot of hyperbole surrounding how many people are actually out there when these events take place. How many people actually show up and are protesting. And in this case, there is no question that the protests specifically against ICE in Minneapolis drew tens of thousands of people into the streets. Now, I don't want to exaggerate exactly how many people actually were out there, but as you could see, without, again, like I said, being hyperbolic here, there is no question that a substantial amount of people were out in the streets saying, ICE, we want you out. And it's at the point now where these types of protests, these types of rallies amongst the people, these general strikes, if you will, are going to become a lot more prevalent as we go forward. When you want to dispatch the National Guard, for example, into certain areas, you can do that, but you can't do it everywhere. And so if people feel inspired that they're going to eventually defy the empire, if you will, then that's what's coming. And this is just a small taste of what's coming as we go forward. The amazing thing here is that this didn't happen after the shooting. This happened before, as in yesterday. This just happened. Here's how it unfolded.
Like they just have to fold it a little more taut.
Now, this is Minneapolis. This isn't New York City. This isn't Chicago. This is not Los Angeles, where you have millions of people living in very densely populated areas, so they have easy access to getting to and from places. No, this is Minneapolis. And keep in mind, this is in sub-zero temperatures. It's very cold out there in Minnesota, and it is also not so much that they are just cold at this time of year. It's like a polar vortex going on up there. So the fact that these many people, and granted, it's a lot easier to be out in the cold when this many people are clustered together because body warmth is a thing, but nevertheless, it is a commitment to righteous anger and putting it into action is what you're seeing here. Now, one would think that the response, just in, Minnesota National Guard troops deployed to secure the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building and the site of today's Border Patrol and ICE shooting in Minneapolis under Waltz's order. So it'll be interesting to see what ultimately ends up coming of this. I am also going to say that for that to be the first of the events that transpired this afternoon, or what I would consider as the backdrop, because now you have people that are just out there protesting every day, that are just consistently out there fighting the fight against what's going on with this so-called Gestapo that's, patrolling the streets. It is unfortunate and it is sad, but a man by the name of Alex Pretti decided that he was going to cover the activities that were taking place on the streets of Minneapolis this afternoon. Now, how was he doing? Well, he was filming. He was also a registered nurse, an outdoorsman, somebody who really gave back to the community. Apparently, there was an official statement released by the Veterans Affairs Administration saying what a great guy he was. So there is that. Now, Alex showed up to this event armed. But last I checked, we do have a Second Amendment. And we do have the right to defend ourselves if we choose. There isn't this idea that Only one side could be armed and the other side can't. But what transpired today to me is pretty clear cut. It's pretty clear cut as far as I'm concerned. And he chose, again, the total hubris on the part of the pro-Trump, pro-Israel, pro-gun crowd, if you will, because it's all interconnected. I mean, let's be honest. They're saying it was suicide by cop. They were saying he pulled his gun on the cop, even though these are not cops. These are ICE agents masquerading as police. And of course, he had a permit to carry. That's not a surprise. Again, this guy who clearly understood the law, understood what he was doing. And so I do have to brace you guys for this because it's not pretty, but we're going to show it. So this happened in the early hours of the day. And from everything suggesting that he went there to confront the police or that he was attacking them, no, he was filming them. And this is probably the most high definition video that I could find because I went through several of them. There are multiple angles, but we're going to stop and pause so you'll see what I mean. So already you see that this particular ICE agent just shoved a woman. And one thing we know about a lot of these guys is that they're not as tough as they make themselves out to be unless they're pulling a weapon, in this case, a gun. And in this case, physically assaulting a woman, which again is, I guess, just par for the course. You don't really see them assaulting too many men one-on-one. Usually that involves multiple people involved at the same time. But this guy gets it started and it's going to get worse. Okay, so for anybody who knows anything about law enforcement, especially when it comes to something like mace, and in this case, it could very well be deer mace or bear mace. So you really don't need to squirt somebody in the face more than a second for it to take effect. It is blinding, it is burning, it is painful, and typically you're going to go down pretty fast. Now, as you can clearly see in this footage, that was not a simple shot of bear mace. This was, let me try and end your life, or at the very least, blind you with mace while I'm at it. Holding down on that lever, it's excessively, one can imagine that he would definitely enjoy doing something like this. Why would people need to mace anybody unless they're being attacked? Again, that's a big part of it. So, where's the gun? The ICE agent says. Oh, we got more to go. Now, before the killing takes place, let's be very clear. It does seem like a whole bunch of guys were able to subdue this guy who was really a threat, who was really causing trouble. I don't know how anybody thinks that this guy is getting to his gun. And even if he was, the only thing that I've noticed in this fiasco that a lot of people are ignoring is that if you look closely at, I'm trying to, I can't zoom in on this, but if you look at the gentleman who was standing at Alex's, at the base of his head, this guy in green and blue jeans, he proceeds to smash this guy in the head with what appears to be the butt end of his gun. Now, if he's doing that, chances are he could kill him like that just as easily. Doesn't need to shoot him. Just use that piece of metal, which, could be a Beretta or whatever gun he's using. And good night. So let's see if I can get a clear shot of it here. All right. So right before the guy proceeds to shoot, you can see. I know it's hard to see, and we're going to try to play another angle. And Colin, if you have another angle that we could play, because this is just not a good angle. It's not a good angle to see what's going on. I want people to be able to see what it's, because the woman in the you can't see her right now. The woman in the red coat. Yeah, stop resisting. See the woman in the red coat. What you actually are able to see is she's filming it from the front angle. She's able to film it from an angle where you could see directly into the line of where all of the ICE agents are attacking him. So I want another clip. I want one from the front. If you've got that, please pull it. What I'm going to show you in the meantime is the response that what I initially thought was the sheriff of Minneapolis. I thought that that's who was talking here. It's actually not. It's actually the head of the ICE agents that were there in Minneapolis. This is what he had to say. And this is within various clips spliced together of what just happened.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Let's go around.
Looks like he approached them with a camera. But hey, don't let a lie get in the way of a good story.
The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted.
I just want to know, how can somebody violently resist? I'm serious. How can somebody violently resist if they have been maced in the face for at least 5 to 10 seconds? How do you expect? First of all, if anybody knows anything about mace, it basically renders you like sterile. Like you can't function with that amount of mace shot to the face. I mean, it's just clear as day what was going on. Again, this is part of the story that isn't being talked about. What's not being talked about is the amount of mace that was shot at this guy. You saw how fast he dropped to the ground. And they're going to suggest that he was pulling his gun to try to shoot everybody? That's suicide by cop. But again, with this guy and what he has going on in his life and what he was there to do in the first place, I don't know how you think you're going to sell it. I know they got their talking points and they're going to try to sell them. Try it. I just don't think it's going to work this time. This is murder. They're going to try to cover their ass, but this don't look good. Took the gun.
Suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
I don't know how they can live with themselves, but I guess when you're sociopathic and even psychopathic, it's pretty easy.
He is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry.
About 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement.
I'm just disgusted with the whole thing. I mean, look at this army on the streets of our city, and these are people with weapons drawn, ready to put down this insurrection that doesn't exist.
The men and women of CBP and ICE, law enforcement, are highly trained professionals who love this country and do this work because they want to leave their kids and their grandkids a country that's safe and secure.
I mean, if that isn't 1984-esque, obey Big Brother and you will be safe, I don't know what is. That's pretty clear cut as far as I can tell. Do we look safe and secure?
An individual
is now dead because they didn't fire 1 round. They didn't fire 2 rounds. They fired 11 rounds. Now, I can't tell if it was 1 ICE officer doing it. I think it was probably 2. But 11 rounds. He was dead after like the second or third shot. But they wanted to pump him up full of lead just for good measure. Because why not? Who's going to stop them? Nobody's stopping them. And when I hear people say that they think that this has to be done to remove illegal immigration, I am going to bring it back full circle to what is always the main issue here. Always. Multinational corporations, their only obligation is to their shareholders. And in the end, screwing over labor is the name of the game. You're concerned about illegal immigration in the United States. You should be concerned about the very people that are allowing this to happen in the first place. You really think that if this country did not want people crossing the border, that they wouldn't stop it? Of course they would. But it's good for business. It's great for business. If it was up to them, we would all be slaves. It'd pay us nothing. Why do you think there is a portion of this country that still talks about the South will rise again? Because it's not even a question of whether the people are black. It's just a question of whether or not we can go back to a way where people just accept that there is a caste system in this country. And if that includes slavery, then so be it. That's the way they see it. So when everybody's out there wondering, why can't we let ICE do their job? Why the hell should we have ICE in the first place if our government actually did their job? But we don't, because our government is owned hook, line, and sinker by for-profit national, multinational, international corporations. That's a fact. Are we still going to pretend that this is not the reason? How many people have to die before this becomes a problem? And if anybody thought that this had anything to do with, oh my God, they're killing black and brown people, they're killing white people, so who gives a fuck? It's the same problem. The same issue exists because they don't want to deal with the actual problem. No one is calling for the boycott of Amazon. No one is calling for the boycott of Walmart. Let me know when that starts. And there are multinational corporations that are supporting ICE. I believe Burger King, Hilton Hotels. There you go. There's your problem. Why does that not happen? And it happens everywhere, like everywhere. But no, we're not going to address that. We're also not going to address the fact that so much of these problems are taking place in Minneapolis, where I would imagine the population that is involved in any of these illicit activities is on a very small scale. If they don't come to states like Texas and Florida, yes, I know Florida, is a lot more prevalent. So this is a very big problem. And so now I want to play, Colin, you said you have another angle, so we're going to play it. So this is the front angle. This is the front angle of the shooting.
Go.
Again, you can see the quality of the video is not good, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay, so as you can see, this woman must be some threat, like a really big threat, for an ICE agent to do this. Spraying, spraying, spraying. Let me tell you, if there is an ICE agent that needs to get it, that needs to be brought up on accessory to murder charges, it's the first guy right here. He shoved that woman, and then he takes out the mace and goes excessively over the top, spraying this guy in the face. He started the whole thing. He escalated the confrontation. He didn't de-escalate, because that's what law enforcement is trained to do. That's not what ICE is trained to do. People are really fucking stupid enough to still think that this is about illegal immigration. Is that what you really think this is? I mean, I would hope at some point people just kind of wake up and realize, yeah, this is not looking too good. They are what they are. They are the Gestapo, the modern day Gestapo. That's what you're looking at. They are paid agitator animals on the streets. And a lot of them are connected to a lot of different nationalistic organizations. It's a fact. It's a lot of Oath Keepers, a lot of Proud Boys, J6ers, a lot of those guys. And these jobs pay well. And again, they feel like they have a license to do whatever they want.
The fuck, people? The fuck is wrong with you? Honestly.
Now, what's amazing is that you could see him pull his weapon, but he does it in a way he's not even involved. Like, he's basically just standing over these guys, watching it unfold. And then, as you could see, the next thing you know, he pulls his gun and he just unloads. Grab it, shoot, 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 shoot. Ding, 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 ding. What's amazing is that he was so confident that he would be able to get off these shots with a whole bunch of his ICE buddies standing right there. What if he slipped? What if you shot one of your own guys? I mean, that is a really close shot to be taking when you have a whole bunch of guys on the ground just, trying to subdue this guy. But my guess is that he was probably pretty subdued. It's also possible that he was having a physical attack from being maced so badly. That's the other thing that people don't take into account. That's a huge part of it as well. Take that into consideration, that everyone's on top of him, wrestling with him on the ground. Did you stop to think that maybe he was just completely delirious and messed up after taking a can of mace to the face for about 10 to 15 seconds? That's going to mess people up pretty bad. And maybe he was having some type of an attack. Again, this is murder. Period. And well, exactly. 5 guys can't subdue one guy, and he's not even big. That's the whole thing. It's like you got 5 guys on top of him. You can't subdue him. What do you think he's going to do? I can't get upset at this because to me, this is all just, it's too obvious. There's still, you get to a point where psychologically you need to recognize what this is, why this is happening, why these guys are getting away with this shit, and why it needs to end. We can be enraged. We can say, holy shit, how could they do this again? Because they have a license to do it. But the most amazing part about it, ladies and gentlemen, is they did this within 24 hours of tens of thousands of people in the streets telling ICE to get out of their city. You think that was bad? This is now going to really take off like a lightning rod. This is, they're daring them to turn this into a full-on type of civil war type situation in Minneapolis. And as Jen said earlier, and I'll reiterate here, the regular law enforcement of Minneapolis is going to have to make a choice. Whose side are they on? Because this is going to define how this is going to go in a lot of other parts of the country. How's it going to go? How will law enforcement ultimately decide that they want to deal with this? Remember, I'm showing you a dead body in the street right now, and he's still shooting. You know why? Once again, because they are allowed to. They are allowed to do this. No one is going to get in their way. How do I know? Because the head of ICE already came out and said, this guy was a terrorist. This guy was attacking us. The guy in the gray jacket took out his gun, saw the gun on him, and knew that they could just say, well, he was going to shoot us. Here's the interesting thing, and this is going to conclude the story. Colin, I need the image, please. So everybody's been flashing this image of the supposed gun that was on this guy. It turns out that it wasn't the gun that he had on him anyway. It was a gun that they just pulled off of the internet that I guess was placed there a few days ago, a couple of years ago. They're just not that good at this. They're just not that good at it. They're not subtle. So now the question really becomes, what is the next step? Where do we go from here? What is going to be the next move? What will ultimately come of this assassination of Alex Pretti? What's going to happen? I don't know. But I can tell you that if you think that the assassination of Renee Good was bad, this is that much worse. Because they have nothing to argue. They're going to say he had a gun on him, and he did. But if you're going to try to convince people that he somehow was pulling a gun after he got maced in the face like that, he couldn't see anything. How the hell was he going to shoot anyway? What was he going to do? Shoot it into the air? He was probably blind. At that moment, with that much mace in the face, he's blind. He can't see shit. So again, this is a really stupid argument, but this is what political propaganda is all about. And this is why people don't want anything to do with politics. This is a primer. You want to know a perfect example of an issue that no one wants to be involved in? Topics like this push people away from politics.